Hey everybody. So yesterday we talked about perspective, and so today I wanted to touch on negativity. And negativity is something that kind of creeps in on us. A lot of times we don't realize that it's starting to edge in. It can be something as little as one thought, one negative thought, and then all of a sudden more start coming in because it's interesting. I've talked about this before where you basically, if you have a negative thought, we can redirect our thoughts. We don't have to agree with them. We don't have to believe everything we think. However, we do have to monitor and make that brain behave, because if not, it will wander off on tangents that will have us so upset and so negative about things that never happened, won't happen, likely could never happen. But we can play those scenarios out in our head. Anxiety, worry, fear, doubt, all of those things get into our brain. And if we entertain those thoughts, that brings us into an emotional spiral. And then we start to replay every negative thing that ever happened to us. And when we run out of things there, we start going the other way about every negative thing that could possibly happen to us. And end up in just such a yuck muck mood that the whole day is blown. If you ever get like that, where you've just had it, if you have the opportunity to take a nap, believe it or not, that'll help reset your brain. It kind of clean the slate and start over. Um, but we basically have like 16 seconds to redirect a thought before it brings another one in. So when you find yourself getting into a negative mindset, redirect it. So, like, trying to think of a good scenario. So you go outside, getting ready to leave for work. You've got a flat tire. Oh, really? You know what? At least I have a car. What am I going to do now? Who am I going to call? Do I have what I need? Acknowledge, oh, I've got a flat tire. Do I need to call my boss? Like, what do I need to do now? Instead of, oh my gosh, I've got a flat tire. Of course I do, because yesterday this happened and that happened, and and this is going on, and that, and this, and that. We'll do that. It's like a snowball effect. You can do the same thing with positive thoughts, but we tend to do it with negative. And the bad thing about it is, what we are feeling is what we attract. So if you are feeling negative and develop a victim mentality over one small thing, you'll notice that on days like that, if you don't monitor your mindset, and I was talking about this in yesterday's video, I let myself do that and get on this horrible spiral. And I was like, by the end of the day, I'm like, get away from me. Get away from me. Like, I was on my own last nerve because I'd let my mind get so ick. And it was just exhaustion and overwhelm, but I did it to myself. And we do that because when we let that one negative thought come in, our brains are designed to look for support, to support our own thought process, prove ourselves right. And the universe, the higher power, is very good at affirming that for us, because that's why we energetically attract what we're putting out. So if I've decided that the day sucks, then I want to focus on that, the universe is going to deliver. So negativity is something that we really need to monitor, not just in ourselves, but our environments, what we take in. If you sit and watch negativity all day, like even on Facebook, because people can be like Facebook, social media in general, but you've got people who troll, and the ads that just make you want to bawl your eyes out, and all kinds of news and arguments, and ick. Even television shows. Anything that we experience emotionally, our brain feels like that's actually happening in that moment. So if we're watching something that has us all kinds of messed up emotionally, we experience that as if it's happening to us in that moment. Like we're the one going through that. And even when we reflect in our thoughts about negative situations that have happened in the past, our brain replays it as if it's happening right now. Emotionally, energetically, we can damage our bodies just by spending too much time reflecting on painful situations, because stress causes inflammation in the body. And we are just a giant chemical factory. Our brain produces all these chemicals that affect our physiological responses, that affect our heart rate, our digestion. Fight or flight is a state that unfortunately many of us spend way too much time in when we are under stress and pushing to meet deadlines and trying to do way more than is humanly possible. Or we're in an unsafe situation, and this is like police officers, soldiers, people in those professions. They spend a large part of their lives professionally in that fight or flight response, and they tend to live shorter lives because of it. I mean, it really takes a toll on the body, and we can do that to ourselves through our mental state and allowing ourselves to stay in negative situations where we don't feel safe, even if it's just emotionally. Because when people think of being unsafe, typically we think of a situation where we could be harmed physically. However, emotional safety is huge, because the fight or flight response, if you are constantly on alert because you're not sure whether or not the people around you are going to attack you, if you were ever bullied in school or had an emotionally abusive relationship, or even just a negative friend who would tear you down here and there, just you never knew, and so you're always edgy around that person, well, that's emotionally unsafe. And that can absolutely damage you, because your cortisol is out of control, your adrenaline, everything is off, and that causes inflammation, shortens your lifespan. So negativity is more than just about having a positive mindset. It's your overall well-being. And when you're in that state of constant edginess, awareness, hyper-awareness, it's exhausting. Absolutely exhausting. It takes a toll on you in so many ways. You're definitely not experiencing joy. I mean, there's no room for joy in all that mess. That chemical does not interact with the others. So negativity can come from a lot of different things. It can come from inside ourselves with our thoughts. It can come from outside of us. And that's where we have to make better choices about boundaries, who has access to us, what we take in, what we allow in our environment. Is that job really worth it if you walk in every day feeling like you're going to have a heart attack because you just know this coworker is going to be a problem, this coworker is going to be a problem, or it's the job itself? Customer service comes to mind. I tell you what, people can be very difficult. I preferred police work over customer service. Maybe it's just me, but my gosh, can people be nasty. I try to be so nice anytime I deal with someone who works in customer service, because I know so many of the people that they deal with are horrible. So if you have to call somewhere today about customer service, be nice to them. And that's another way that we can help alleviate negativity, is to not spread it. Don't create it. If you have the opportunity, take some away. And by that, it's like if you get into a situation where there are people around you that are being negative, if you have the energetic bandwidth for it that day, try to lighten it up. Don't absorb it. Don't be a sponge. But if you can lighten the moment, or do something funny just to break the mood, redirect it. And that's really what it takes, is just a redirect. Our brains work that way, where you can all of a sudden say something stupid. It can be in the middle of a disagreement, and if you know the other person well enough, where you have some shared humor or shared history, or, come up with a code word, something that is going to break the tension, use it. Because at the end of the day, I don't know if you've ever seen, there's a picture of, it's a statue actually, but it has two adults back to back, and inside these two adults that are sitting back to back, and it's like you can tell they're angry. Inside of them are small child-sized statues that are facing each other and touching hands. We don't really want the negativity. Sometimes it's pride, sometimes it's ego. Most of the time, it's resentment. It's resentment that we've allowed to build because we haven't either expressed ourselves, we haven't expressed ourselves clearly, we haven't felt heard. Some people won't hear you, and those are the people that you need to create more boundaries with. If they don't want to hear you, then there's no point expressing yourself. That dynamic is not going to change. But if you're in a positive relationship and you have resentment, that's unexpressed emotion. And until you express it in a constructive way, where you can be heard and get feedback from the other person that you know you're heard. And there again, going back to yesterday's video on perspective, you may believe one thing from your perspective, and when you voice that to the other person, they didn't see it that way at all. And they can't believe that you felt hurt over this when it really was either innocent or just a misunderstanding, or they had no idea that something would bother you. And all of a sudden, this resentment that you've carried, that's been damaging the relationship, you kind of feel like a jackass. At least I do. When I find out that this belief that I've had, that this is the way this played out, like, they were thoughtless. They didn't even think about me. And then you express it to them, and they're like, well, no, I did that because I thought it would help here, here, and here, which involves me, beneficial to me, but I didn't see their perspective until I expressed my concerns appropriately, was heard and received feedback. Then I could change my perspective, and all of a sudden the resentment turned into kind of a jackass. So, again, negativity, it's something that we really, especially, like I said, with the energetics that we're experiencing right now, just be mindful. Be mindful when you find yourself slipping into negative thinking or taking on that resentment, that, talk it out, speak it, voice it, because you're either going to resolve the problem or at least see a new perspective, or find out that this person doesn't want to hear you. And that's when you know that that's probably not a good place to invest. So I hope that helps. I hope cricket snoring isn't too horribly obnoxious, which, by the way, every time we relocate, I have to check my equipment, redo my setup, because audio sucks, video sucks, something is not right. So I've got some new equipment coming. I hope that will help with the audio and video quality and cut out some of the background noise. And so thank you for your patience, because, my God, I had just gotten everything worked out in the last place when we moved again. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me today, and I will talk to you soon.